Hello and welcome to On the Right Track Career Stories, a video series and podcast about real people, their real careers, and real lives. I'm Jane Christoph, your host, and today I'm talking to Mark Selby. He's a mining executive, and he's got some great information to share with us today. Let's just get started. Tell us about what you do for a living.
Sure. So right now, I'm mining executive. I just started a new company last September called Canada Nickel Corporation, and we're basically advancing a big nickel deposit. Nickel is used in stainless steel, which is all over your house or all kinds of different applications. But the big new use for it is in electric vehicles. So, every electric vehicle has tens of kilos of nickel sitting in the bottom of the car, and that's the thing that basically provides the range that the car needs to be able to drive 400, 500, 600 kilometers without charging. So somebody called it the new gasoline. So I think that's a good analogy. So it's going to be a very increasingly important metal over the next 20 or 30 years.
Okay, so why are you in mining? What got you there?
I was actually a very strange child. When I was 9 years old, I had a subscription to a magazine called The Northern Miner. My grandfather, during the Depression, had got a job. He was a very good hockey player, and he got a job with a mining company because they hired good hockey players because that was the only entertainment in town. So my mom and whole family moved up in the 30s up to northern Quebec. My mom was born up there. So he had all these great stories of prospecting and going hunting and fishing and all kinds of really interesting places. And then my dad's dad, in the late 1960s, we went through a very big mining boom, similar to what we went through about 15 years ago. And so he was addicted to playing penny mining stocks about this one that's gone up 10x and dropped 10x and all that. So between both of them, I kind of got interested in there. And so, at that time, so I thought, yep, I'm going to become a geologist, and then a geologist, and sort of evolved to a mining engineer. But one thing in my life, I was sort of very determinedly on one path, that then I never actually ended up on that path. So even though 30 years later, I'm in mining, I did about 7 different major zigzags along the way, starting in university. So.
Okay. So I must say, I've never met anyone who subscribed to a magazine so specific at the age of 9.
No.
So that's
and
very
you don't
interesting.
actually want to meet too many of those.
That's an interesting story. Okay, Mark, why don't you tell us what you did? What were you like in high school, and what did you take in university? Start from there.
Sure. So in high school, again, with my sort of, I'm going to be, get into the mining industry. Queens was the top mining engineering school. So again, I would always encourage people, always apply for the toughest program that you can get into out of university. It's always easy to switch programs into an easier program, but it's always harder to switch into something, earlier on. So, apply for the toughest one to get into that you think you can get into. And you obviously give yourself some outs. Queens Engineering was my number one choice. I think I put U of T down as the second choice. I had never been to campus. I played hockey there once or twice as a kid, but I'd actually never seen the campus until I walked in in early September. Unfortunately for me, it's, I did, as a kid in Scarborough, I didn't know anything about it, didn't know anybody who'd gone. So it turned out to be an amazing university experience. But my first summer, I worked in northern Manitoba at a mine and thought, this is not the best industry. So I actually switched programs. So, again, the other part I do is encourage people, particularly now, university is not cheap. Your time's not precious. You're young, you can make changes, and don't feel that you're a failure if you change your mind. I changed from mining engineering into engineering physics. Which at the time was seen as sort of the easiest discipline to the toughest academically discipline. And I did really enjoy it. But then I realized it was actually going to be too much schoolwork. I'd got quite involved in student government and so forth at school and a bunch of activities. So I was going to do an MBA later on. I thought, I'm going to switch and do my commerce degree. So again, 6 months later, I changed from the Faculty of Engineering into commerce at Queens. So again, best decision I ever made. Again, lucky. Turned out that commerce was, Queen's Commerce program is extremely highly regarded. And at that time, I was determined I was going to become a chartered accountant. That was just a good way to learn good financial discipline that you could apply to any industry.
Right.
So went ahead and took all the accounting courses. Came out first year. Worked at Touche Ross for a summer, and then started working full time. and I was torn actually by the end. I had actually done a lot of IT work and really torn between doing IT consulting and commerce. I should have quit, gone to the West Coast, and I would have been retired 10 years ago, making all the money in the tech sector in the 1990s. But, I've got a few regrets. That's only one of them. And so I was doing the accounting stuff. And then again, I realized not sure, I really enjoyed more of the IT stuff. The other part, my girlfriend at the time was traveling through Southeast Asia. So after 5 months, I quit my job as an accountant. I flew to Singapore and spent a couple months traveling through Southeast Asia in 1990. It was fantastic. I then came back. I went to work at Coopers & Lybrand. And then my first assignment there was to go out to Purolator to work for some guys from Onyx, which is a big private equity firm here in Toronto. They had fired all the management. They needed some help. I was just an analyst. Anyways, I worked alongside a bunch of the senior guys from Onyx. It was a big turnaround situation. I ended up quitting my accounting job and jumping to work at Purolator alongside the Onyx guys for 4 years, which was the best business education that you could ask for. I learned so much in a short period of time. And then during there, we had used this one consulting firm. And when the time came for me after we'd sold Purolator to Canada Post, I jumped shipped over to a management consulting firm called Mercer. It's now called Oliver Wyman, and spent 7 amazing years there. I have a bunch of my best friends are all from that period of time. And so, so again, I've had a very determined plan that's gone to zigzag a bunch of times. And again, I would encourage people, don't, the worst thing you can do is not do something just because, it may seem like a big deal at the time, but, when you're 16, 17, 18, 19, 22, you really, don't have that much invested at that point. And, again, I made a bunch of big changes and I don't regret, a single one of them. So don't be afraid to put your hand up, take the chance, and who knows where it may lead to.
Now, how did you feel when you were making these big changes early in your career? Was it scary or exciting?
It was exciting. There's always about a week or two in, there's a oh shit moment where you go, okay, what have I done? And that lasts about a few days. And then after you get through that second week and you settle in, then you don't look back. I never look back.
Yeah.
I very vividly remember, and again, people think about certain things and think, oh, this is such a big decision. And, you've got to, again, I would say, don't sweat it. If you enjoy doing it, go do it. One of the biggest impacts in my entire life was, I had just started at Coopers. I had just been assigned all my work for the summer. Was going to have a nice sort of not too busy, summer of work. And my staffing manager came around and said, oh, we need somebody to go out to Purolator. It's going to be 2 weeks. They need to know Lotus 3.0. And no one else put their hand up. And I thought, oh, I'm the new guy. So, I put my hand up. So, if I had not put my hand up, I never would have gone to Purolator, never worked with the Onyx guys, then never, who knows where my entire life had done. So, again, it's, that little gesture, put me on basically my 25 years. So, and I didn't think anything about it at the time. So, I would, and just again, encourage people, don't, people can get all tied up in knots over, certain decision, just, don't be afraid to go with your gut.
You're willing to take risks. You're also very adaptable, but you also have the skills and the intelligence, like the brains, to be able to get into mining engineering, get into physics engineering, get into Queen's Commerce. Like these are no joke programs. So you've got a lot going for you. But I guess probably the most important parts are the grit and the adaptability pieces, the risk-taking side of your personality. I mean, certainly you have the hard factors as well.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's it for sure. Right. I mean, it's the willing to take a chance and just, again, literally lifting your foot up, taking that step across the threshold and then seeing what happens. And again, you're not jumping off a cliff. So it's,
yeah, these are great. These are great stories, Mark. Okay, I want you to talk a little bit about what you do now as a mining executive. You run a company. It's your company, correct?
Yep. Okay. Yep. So we basically So I've now run, this is my sort of second company that I've been CEO of. So, a CEO of a public company, you've got sort of three sets of balls that you need to juggle all the time. One is investors, so when you're a public company, investors give you their money, right? So there is people whose money you take and you hope, that you're going to make more money for them. I have my own money in the company as well. And so, so that's one group that you need to spend a lot of time with and keep them up to date and, help them, help new ones get into the story, help existing ones stay in the story. Then, the second group of people is in terms of, your employees. So we've got about a dozen employees now in Timmins and here in Toronto, and scattered working in, we work remotely. And again, it's sort of, getting the team to focus on, we got to advance the project. So there's things that we need to get done. There's, surprises that come out of nowhere that you need to deal with and work through. But the key thing there is, working as a team and making sure everybody's as happy and as focused as possible. You can't please everybody, but it's about, keeping the team together. And again, as you grow, you're hopefully continuing to grow the team, as you move forward. And then, there's the technical, day-to-day parts of the job. You just have to manage, what's getting done when, and making sure the project itself is getting, sort of continuing to advance as you move forward. So.
Okay. And you've got people in the field working on mines and so on, looking
Yep.
for properties to purchase and work on.
Yep.
You recently, in a previous company, I believe, there was a big find.
Yes. Yeah. No. Mining is about 80 or 90% luck and 10% skill. No. No. The key piece of, and again, there's a baseball analogy. You don't hit a home run if you don't take a swing. So, again, just take a chance. So, the last company I was at, the project we had was a great project, but it was in a metal that was out of favor. Investors weren't really interested. And it was tough to really do much. And we took advantage of a market downturn. We bought part of a copper mine in Canada, and then we bought a gold and nickel mine in Australia. And yeah, we went through two very, very, very hard years. Because we had the mine had already borrowed money to get into operation. We had to borrow more money to continue to expand it, and we literally, it was like, okay, who's got $5 today, through part of that process. And then we kept it going for that time period. And this mine had always had every once in a while had these, 1,000-ounce discoveries of literally chunks of gold that are in the ground that, are so spectacular that even the crustiest old mining people just like, go bananas when they see it. And so, yeah, we literally the Labor Day weekend in September 2018, over the weekend, we bumped into something that turned out to be like almost 30,000, which is a $50 million worth of gold that we pulled out of a space smaller than most people's living rooms.
That's incredible.
Yeah, if people want to Google Beta Hunt gold discovery, you can see we made the news around the world for 48 hours. It was very exciting. But again, if we had not persevered, we wouldn't have got lucky, right? So that's. Again, I just really encourage people to, just again, take chances, make that step. And then once you've stepped, keep going. But if you want to make a change, then just make the change.
Your message is really powerful, Mark. Okay. So let's talk about your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
What's it like? Do you have work-life balance? Do you have any time for personal and family? You're traveling.
Oh, I do. Yeah, no, I coached, all through that, I coached my children's hockey teams and soccer teams. They're now, one's in university and one's got 1 year of high school left. I've spent a bunch of time with my, extended family. I don't think I am the world's best person in terms of work-life balance. You can ask my family if they're on it. But yeah, no, definitely, try and do it. And again, the other thing I think encourage people, like, one of the best sort of career pieces I've ever heard was, if you won the lottery on Friday, on Monday or Tuesday, what would you wake up and choose to do, right? And so, because again, a lot of people, you need to work to make money. But if you're able to get as close to whatever that is, after winning the lottery, with your job or career, then go for it, because then it just makes it it makes it easy to get up and do stuff. It doesn't feel like it's work per se. It's just stuff you enjoy doing. So
Okay, so
and I
what do you love so much about your work?
um I think the sort of the different facets of it, the fact that there's a big people component portion of it, there's a serious technical portion of it as well. My family wonders when they see, screen full of different colors, and I'm scrolling through images of different colors that are all over the place, what it is I'm looking at, and just trying to figure out, understand where we should drill next, kind of thing. And then there's we get measured, and every day the share price goes up and down, and over a period of time, people can think we're doing a good job or not a good job on that. So all those different aspects of it, I think, are pretty rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what surprised you the most about your work?
What has surprised me the most about my work? I think the fact, given how many times I changed between 1986 and 2001, is that 20 years after joining the mining industry, I'm still here. And again, I made the shift I got out of consulting into mining. We had our first child. 2000 was a bad year for all the consulting firms had hired too many consultants, and we're going into a recession. So we were busy laying people off, which is never any fun. And got to the end of the summer, got to the end of the layoffs, and I realized, consulting, you have to travel quite a bit. And we had our first child, and I was dreading the fact that, okay, I might have to spend 6 months in the southern United States, or back and forth to Europe or wherever. And so I decided I need to change jobs, and literally, a week or two later, I'd passed on a job that came along. One of my friends said, "Oh, the person they had, it fell through, and they called, they need somebody." So I knew the person who was doing the hiring, and I phoned them up, said, could this work? And they said, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." And literally, 4 weeks later, I had this new job. And so again, it wasn't any big shift to, I want to get back into mining specifically. It was, no, I just wanted to get off the road and have a sort of a more normal 9 to 5 in town kind of a job for a while. And again, the opportunity came, and I was able, to take advantage of it. So the fact that 20 years later, I'm still in the same business, I think is probably the most surprising piece.
Okay, so what advice would you give to young people today who are interested in going into the mining industry? Let's pick that one out of your past.
So I think in terms of mining, there's again a huge range of dimensions to it. So there's the geology, but there's also all the environmental compliance. There's the business part of it, so around the legal and the financial, around the accounting. There's the actual engineering. There's lots of mechanical engineers. There's lots of different moving parts and pieces in the mines and mills and so forth that need to get done. So again, I would encourage, and this is in all jobs, like honestly, in high school, we had this computer program where you could you type stuff in, and it told you about different careers. And the thing about that is, you don't realize how many thousands of different jobs there are out there, right? Until you do some of that stuff, just to realize it's like, there's 44,000 people in Canada who do X and make a good living at it, and you don't know, you don't even know anyone who knows anyone who does that job, right? So so explore, and again, explore. There's, within any industry, there's various dimensions to it, and so sort of pick your dimension that you think is the most interesting, and then again, just go for it and try it, and maybe it works, and maybe it doesn't, but just don't be afraid to take a chance. And if you take a chance, give it a good shot, and then don't be afraid to move on if it doesn't work out.
Okay, now a couple more questions, and then I'm going to let you get back to your regular life.
Sure.
What would you tell your younger self?
My younger self? Oh, geez. Go to Silicon Valley in 1989. You should have quit school and done that. That's honestly, that's about really one of the only real regrets I had. Most of it, again, it was a pretty zigzaggy path, but I was pretty happy with all the zigs and the zags. So other
Okay, so my
Kind of
next
thing.
question
Yeah,
is kind of on that line. What would you be
yeah.
doing if you weren't in mining?
If I was in mining, I mean, I love management consulting. I really, really enjoyed it. If you weren't, um, the last 5 months before our son was born, in mid-May, I flew 52 times. And that wasn't, I mean, that was busy, but that wasn't considered crazy excessive. So it's a very, um, it's very tolling on your personal lifestyle. Um, that would probably be the other place I could do it if I could manage the work-life balance part of it.
Well, that's great. This has been a wonderful conversation, Mark. Thank you
Oh
very
no,
much
glad to
for
do it,
sharing.
and good luck everybody.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time and your insights, and it's great to catch up with you.
All right,
Take care.
thanks, Jane. Take care.
Thank you for joining us today. If you liked what you saw, give us a like, and even better, subscribe. Hope to see you soon.